So a few of the things you've mentioned there between you, I want to talk about. Let's start off with the 49s. Hu Zihui from China, she won. She went 94-116. She absolutely destroyed it. Then I think in fact, in my opinion, the USA's best chance of a medal, maybe Sarah Robles, but I thought maybe it's going to be Jordan De La Cruz, honestly. She hit that 200 kilo total at the Pan Am Champs, 89-111, smashed it. I think, in fact, I'll pull up the results, but 200 might have been enough for bronze medal again this time. She ended up bombing out with a 108 kilo opener, which is 3 under her personal record.
Yeah.
It's a heavy opener. I think we can all agree with that.
So, Seb, I think 200, are you sure that would have only been bronze?
And I think so, because the Indian lifter would have done higher. So, yes. Okay, so bronze was 202. Sorry, no, silver was 202.
Okay.
Yeah, silver's 202.
Yeah.
Bronze was 194. So 195 would have won it.
Okay.
Or 195 would have got a bronze. Sorry.
Would have gotten a bronze.
Yeah.
And what did she snatch? It was 90.
Jordan? 86.
86.
Press out on 89.
Yes. So I think, this is what I was telling you guys before, that she did 111 at Pan Am's.
Yeah.
So the idea was probably, and I'm just, I'm speculating, obviously Spencer would have something, her coach would have something different to say about it. My speculation was that they're going to open at 108, so that second attempt they can go for something, to stay in there, whether it was 110 or 111, and then from there they can go for a big medal, whatever that is, on your third attempt. So I think their plan was to open at 108. If it wasn't the plan to open at 108, they kind of probably got screwed over in the back room. And this is something that I think may have happened to CJ. I think there was a big jump at some point. We can talk about that at some point. But when it gets moving in the back, it gets pretty relentless. From experience coaching people in the back room at nationals meets, if you're kind of waiting to see what people put in, sometimes it puts you in the back seat and you're reactionary. And then next thing you know, instead of, lifting a number that you were planning on hitting, well, you got to add 2 kilos to it so that you can make sure that you have 2 minutes of rest, because you still have another warm up to take in the back, and then it comes on top of you very fast.
So do you know what, Zach? I'm not sure it is that, because the last lift was 103 and then it jumped to 108.
Right. And I think, wouldn't that make sense that that she was looking at someone else? Her coaches were looking at someone else. They're like, this is the total we want to stick around. And then all of a sudden that person takes a crazy jump. And then they're like, oh shit, we can't look at that person. Then, another person jumps up beyond that. And it's just, everyone.
Though, like with DMAS, with Mike Gatone, with Spencer Arnold, my feeling is without that many coaches in the back room, as much as maybe that was the reason, I feel like they thought that was the opener.
But the original opener was 102.
I'd love to know what her last lift looked like. Like her last lift in the back room. I would love to know,
her last lift should have been what she opened with. That's the reality of it. If you bomb on your opening clean and jerk, it's likely that your warm-up you took was the lift. Whether or not we think it was too heavy, it was too heavy. Straight up. And if it was 196 was the total, right?
95 would have got bronze.
195 would have gotten bronze, which would have meant what would she have to have lifted?
86. So what? 105.
Yes, 104.
Yeah.
Right. So either way, that's still a heavy lift, but. I think the main thing for me that I told you guys is, like, look at where we are coming from in the US, right? Like, we're not coming from a position of like, all right, we've been around here a while, let's get some medals. It's like, this is the first time we've fielded a full team. Mm-hmm. And for us, and for what I think we should be doing is making lifts and getting into that top 5 if possible. Making lifts, PRing on stage, for God's sakes, like something where we're not just shooting for medals, because the reality is we haven't been here before with this setup. So it's like, our expectations are so high when in reality we have to put together good totals.
Yeah, it's a real shame. And, I feel honestly awful for Jordan, and I feel awful for Spencer and, the whole coaching team. It must have been really difficult to go over, but something that, the three of us who've got a chat on Instagram, we talk all the time. Something that Eoin said that I thought was an underestimated point was it's like mentally scarring for an athlete, or traumatizing to have to go through bombing out at your first Olympics. Like, I don't think people get quite how tough maybe that is to recover from.
Yeah, and there's no individual medals. I mean, no event medals, right?
Yeah.
So she did get a bronze technically in the snatch,
Yeah.
but you don't get anything in the Olympics, and I think that's actually pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to get rewarded for anything, and if you bomb in the snatch, you are out of the competition. So I think that's a really cool aspect that people might not know. Typically in any other weightlifting meet, if you miss all 3 snatches, you get a chance at the clean and jerk. If you get bronze in the snatch, you get a bronze medal. But in this case, in Jordan's case, she got 3rd in the snatch and returned home with nothing.
Yeah.
Like the issue with the kind of traumatizing aspect as well is that some people react very differently to that. So some lifter A might be someone who is kind of mentally resilient. They are very tenacious, and they'd bomb and they said, fuck this is never happening again. I'm going to turn this around. And then they launch themselves into an even better weightlifting career, But you can also get the people who, unbeknownst to them to this point, might have appeared very resilient to themselves. But when something this mentally challenging happens, this kind of traumatizing, you end up in a kind of a spiral where, and I've seen lots of lifters, not to this extent, of course, not bombing at the Olympics, but we've all seen lifters throughout the years who just kind of get into a rut, and they're like, and talented lifters as well. It's very often lifters who are quite talented who you're like, damn, they're going to do really well. They get a bad series of events or some injuries, and then they end up just leaving weightlifting. I'm not saying Jordan's going to leave weightlifting, but it could have a lasting impact on her.
I mean, she may well be in that first camp where she says, fuck that. And she does come back next time. It's only 3 years away. And
yes, 3 years. I was just thinking about this,
soon.
like literally just now, like it's only 3 years away. That's amazing, dude. Yeah. That is like,
I'm pumped. I can't wait.
Yeah. What a luxury for these athletes. Oh, you had a bad meet, like 3 years, nothing. 4 years. Yeah. It starts getting a little weird there. I still think, like, when you start thinking about quads, though, I personally know how different I was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I personally know how different the landscape of weightlifting was 4 years ago in the United States, right? So what can happen to an athlete, just an individual in 4 years is crazy. Like we saw what happened with Rebecca Koha. It's like she found a boyfriend and they got married, and she's like, weightlifting isn't for me. Again, this is totally hypothetical. This has nothing to do with Jordan anymore. This is purely a time thing. 4 years is a long time to think about your life and what you want to do with it. And if your lasting image is bombing out at the Olympics, well, it's going to be tough. But I think there's some meets coming up. We have Pan Ams, we have Worlds. And obviously she's qualified for both of those. She's qualified for everything. I think she'll be fine. I really do.
Yeah.
And 3 years from now, she'll still be young and ready to go.
So let's talk a little bit about the 55 kilo session. Hayden Diaz won, and she deserved to win. She outlifted Lao Shiyun from China, who was easily the favorite. I actually got into a bit of embarrassment because like the national news people from the Philippines got in touch with me before the Olympics and says, is there any chance that Hayden can win? And I said, honestly, there is no way that she can win this unless Lao Jian goes 2 for 6 and Hayden goes 6 for 6. It's just not possible. And based on their past performances, that was true. And then, she went ahead and won, and I said to them, look, I'm really sorry. And they got another quote from me and everything. But what I'm interested in is, yes, Hayden Diaz won, but also her coaches outcoached the Chinese coaches massively, because the Chinese coaches gave Lao Jian 6 attempts. She did everything she was asked to do. She made every 6 attempts and made them look like she had way more in the tank. And the Chinese team didn't put her in a position to be able to win. And they gave Heidlin the final attempt, and Heidlin did what a champion does and made it. And I feel like, yes, Heidlin won, but Lao Juan lost it because of her coaches as well.
But it's so weird that normally the Chinese lifters will just wait. They'll wait it out. Like no matter what that last attempt has to be, they'll attempt it. We saw Chen Yuzhen, he went for 11 kilo jump, 12 kilo jump.
Yeah,
whereas she made a very good 6-for-6 competition, you know. But we wouldn't expect this of any other country as well. If this wasn't China, we'd be like, damn, that was a good battle, sensible coaching and attempts from that Chinese lifter, you know. But because it's for Chinese, typically we were like medal, gold at all costs. Remember the 56 kilo lifter in London? He came silver to one. Yeah, he was crying. Remember, there was a huge kind of media thing from that he was crying that he won silver. He was so apologetic to the country, you know. So it's so strange that they just didn't hold off until Heidlin had finished her attempt, and then they went for the third attempt, you know.
So especially because she's the clean and jerk world record holder, and she's the total world record holder, and they gave her a lighter lift than she's hit.
What's her best total? What did she end up with, and what's her best total?
She ended up with 223. I believe her world record total is 229.
Yeah,
that's or something like that. Yeah.
So that's, you never know what happened in training. You never know, you know, like.
But she looked like she was in shape. She looked like she was on point.
You know, all the Chinese lifters do. And that's very strange to me. They do typically. The Chinese lifters typically just wait. You're right.
Yeah.
But that's a risk though. It really is. Like, waiting isn't always the best. Sneaking in, getting your first attempt in and seeing what happens. And then sometimes other people, when you do that, like, I don't know, I could just be theorizing this and making it up, but I think the gaming in the back is just different now. It is just, there's got to be a different vibe back there. It's got to be catching people off guard, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely something that most fans of the sport don't appreciate, is how much of the battle goes on in the back room, and how much of a shame it is that it's not explained or televised or like made in a way such that people watching can get a feel for it, because there's so much excitement that goes in the back room. Like waiting, like, you know, you've just hit 125, then someone else comes out for 125 and they miss, and then you minute them because you go up, and like people don't know what's happening in the back room. But it's brutal.
And I had two lifters at nationals that like I had to count for, and I had to make like really like game time decisions, and I could have absolutely fucked it up for them.
Mm-hmm.
And like, no matter what your plan is and what you think it is, like the fact is you always have to like you can't allow what you want to do be dictated by another lifter. Mm-hmm. However, if you start missing, it will be. And if you're, you know what I mean? If you're planning on lifting after someone or more than someone, they can then dictate what you do back there. And that's when things get really sketchy, man.
And really, it's funny because it's very easy to buy into the competition in the back room, and you have to some degree. But, and this sounds very self-evident, but oftentimes if you just try to make the 6 lifts that you're capable of making, you're going to do so much better than you would do if you just tried to beat.
Oh my god!
Yeah, you put the blinders on. That's it.
Yeah, put the blinker. Yeah. So, like sometimes you might have to go a minute too early, but if you're experienced and your coach's experience, you'll have finished your last warm up, especially in the clean jerk, like 4 or 5 minutes beforehand, maybe 3 minutes. You know, snatch a little bit sooner, but the snatch you should be pretty ready soon. You know, so and like the issue with people, this kind of idea that I'm going to open heavy because I'm going to get more attempts at a heavy weight is so redundant. It's such a stupid idea, because in weightlifting, you're just polluting your skill set in that time with negative lifts, you know, and that's what you're practicing. You're reinforcing more negative attempts by going for these heavy attempts. You know, you want to, you build momentum.
Momentum. But if you miss, you now give your power to the person behind you. Mm-hmm. That is the key, Eoin. It's like, no matter what, if you make the lift, you build yourself power. Actually, like, it's not just mental, because the person behind you that now dictates what you're going to do. If you miss, and if you say, you know what, like I want to hit 150, so I'm going to open at 150 or I'm going to open at 147 in the snatch. And I say, okay, like I know I can hit, 150 or whatever. I'm just going to wait until Eoin takes his first attempt, and then I'm going to go. Eoin takes his first attempt at 147. I put in 147 because it's like, why would I? Or I put in 148. Eoin misses 147. The bar goes to me, and I say, well, I'm actually just going to open at 150. I wasn't actually going to open at 147. I take a minute off. Now Owen's back on the minute, and he has to go. If you make that lift, whatever it is, it goes to me. And even if it bounces back to you, you can then bounce it back to me.
Yeah.
But, the power is in your hands when you make the lift. So make it.
Yeah. But you can make that happen. You just, like Seb said, you just go, okay, I know I'm for sure capable of 145 or whatever any day of the week. And no matter what happens in the back room, you just go, okay, 145, that's what we're doing because that's the plan, Like Alien talked about after London, he talked about, he had his lifts, all 6 attempts. He was thinking about them about 6 months beforehand, several months beforehand. He was literally thinking the exact numbers he did and went, So that's the kind of the attitude you need to come into it, especially the Olympics, and your first Olympics or whatever, or like Highlands was like their 4th Olympics, So, and obviously then, if there's a 3rd attempt where you can take gold like Highland did, which is amazing, you go for it then,
It's like make the first 4 attempts that you can make. And if on the second clean and jerk or the third clean and jerk, there's a play that you can make to move up a position, that's when you kind of go by the feel of the competition. But until then, just get what you can get. So sticking with the bizarre Chinese coaching, something else that I wanted to talk about was Shi Zhiyong at the 73s. He obviously smashed it, 166, 198. But he went out, he went for 192, which he missed with a press out in the squat jerk, which, I mean, that's just remarkable that you can even press out a squat jerk. But he missed that. And then the Chinese, instead of saying, okay, let's just retake that and put it beyond reasonable doubt, there's no way Julio Mura can come out and now make 203, massive world record. They said, actually, no, we're going to go for 198, even though he just missed 192, which meant that Julio Mura, if Shi Zhiyong missed the 98, Julio would need 199, which is a 1 kilo world record, but he's cleaned it, he's jerked it, like in training, he's done both of those numbers. I just thought, like, what are the Chinese doing? Why didn't they just take the 192, guarantee it? And obviously, Shi Zhiyong does what Shi Zhiyong does. He comes out, he makes it, and he yells, "Is there no one else?" And it's very cool and epic. And it made for a better session. But I was just shocked they did that. It's like, why do you need to take that risk? Like 198 is going to be.
Was there any lift in between? Was there any lift in between that?
Yeah.
So maybe that has to do with it. I don't know.
Not for Shi Zhiyong.
Yeah, so he misses 192, and then he says, okay, I want someone to lift behind.
He'd already made 188 on his opener.
Right. But I'm saying, so maybe he wanted someone to go. Maybe they wanted someone to go. Yes. And I don't know what that someone was. I don't know what they were.
CJ came out for a world record 198 to try and get bronze. And so did the Korean lifter. Okay,
so
he had a few minutes.
That was probably why. But do you think he can come back and hit 192 and make sure after a 2-minute clock? Probably. I almost think that the Chinese are so stubborn that they will not take a 2-minute clock. How about that?
I mean, that's a take.
For me, was just my favorite from that session. He looks like a winner. Like his name sounds like a winner.
Sorry, Julio Miro.
Yeah, he just looks like a winner. Phenomenal lifter, really fast. He's a unit, like fabulous little mustache. Just like I was a big fan of him in the session. I was rooting for him for the 199, was it, for the world record attempt?
Even if he got that off blocks, and he hang snatched 165. Like he's freaky in training.
Yeah, very, very good lifter. Weird kind of build for weightlifting. Not like he's a very short torso, kind of long limbs.
But long arms.
He makes it work. Venezuelan lifters they've some got great lifters. South America very strong actually in the last few years.
Yeah, South America is great. And also Bozidar Andreev, the Bulgarian in that category. I know he missed 2 jerks, but I love his snatch technique. He's so fast. His positions are so perfect. He's so solid.
Yeah. The jerk bothers me no end. Like, stop doing that. You don't need to do that. That does not work. Like
what about the jerk don't you like? The readjustment or the speed with which he...
It's his hands move several inches to the side as he jerks, even readjust to that weight if you wanted to, but like I know sometimes people, when we talk about this stuff, when we're talking about the squat jerk, and people are like, you don't know, you're not an elite athlete, and all this shit. But ultimately, things make sense. Some things work better than others, and he definitely can adjust technique at those weights. He can do it. It's possible. It'll take a little bit of work, but it would only make sense to attempt to fix that, because he misses a lot of jerks, and it definitely cost him a medal at the Olympics this time, so it just doesn't make sense. There's too many variables going from a normal kind of jerk grip to essentially almost his snatch grip, so it's phenomenal lifter. I love him. His snatch technique is something else. I'd love, Seb, if there was a country you could go to and get his training, I'd love to see a week of his training. That'd be something so interesting.
Well, he trains with Carlos Nazar, that 81 kilo Bulgarian who hit the 206 at Europeans. It was crazy. What do you guys think about in the 67s? Two things really. I mean, we spoke about Merkozani doing amazingly well. He did 145, 177. Yeah, he missed his first two snatches and he went up. That's amazing.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like this kid, that you don't see that ever. That's so rare.
Then there was Luis Mosquera, who power cleaned 180 and jerked it for the lead, and then dropped it before he got a down signal.
Then
they gave
overturned
him a no
it.
lift, and then they gave it to him, which put him in the lead. And then Chen Lijun made a jump from 175 to 187 and just mogged. The difference in strength that you could see between them all at that point was so apparent. Like Chen Lijun was in a physical league of his own.
I mean, he also looked it.
Yeah.
Yes.
The guy looks like a fucking balloon animal, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I will say that's my controversial opinion. Change my mind if you can, but Chen Lijun is the most jacked of the Chinese weightlifters. It's not Shi, it's not Liu, it's
dude.
Chen.
That guy, that guy looked like I was like, this guy looks like a cartoon character, bro.
Yeah.
But,
go ahead, Eoin.
Like the video I made yesterday, like it's not a coincidence that they're doing it, and it is
great thumbnail, by the way.
That's Alex. That's all Alex. I couldn't stop laughing at Darren with the little clipboard, but you shouldn't be able to do that realistically. If we're being honest, like you shouldn't be able to make an 11 kilo jump if things in competition were right. If things were fair among natural athletes or fair among dopers, you shouldn't have that much ability to go from 175 second attempt, win the Olympics in your second attempt.
I guess what did we see? We saw Rahimov do it. Obviously, his jump to 214 in Rio. That was a big jump that shouldn't have been okay. I guess technically Ilya went from 233 to 242. I know he missed him attempting to quit, but he kind of did it as well.
And look what happened.
You're proving his point.
And look what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it won't happen for the Chinese. We know it won't happen for those Chinese lifters.
Nope.
I was rooting for Lewis when they came out with the challenge card. I was so happy that they gave it to him because it was such a good lift. His technique he's so stable. He's so rigid. His pull, his catch. Like he's for me is what I love about weightlifting is that really aggressive, dynamic lifts, really fast lifters, really stable. And a make is such a make for him. Like there's no doubt about it. When he makes a lift, it's like, this is what you want.